Who's Watching the Watcher is definitely a thriller. Who's Watching the Watcher is a book that comes out and exposes a lot of what our government today is about. Today we see a lot of drones. Drones flying over. We're having big discussions about drones flying over JFK, drones killing Americans, drones flying in different countries and watching over people. Not only do we have these drones out flying around, but now we have all these different agencies, everything from the CIA to the FBI to the NSA to the Secret Service. We can go on and on and on. These people are all watching over us. And Who's Watching the Watcher hopefully will expose that, because as normal citizens in the U.S. today, we're all vulnerable to these services that are out there that are watching over us. Why do we need all these people watching over us is the question I ask myself. Why do we need these people? And Who's Watching the Watcher is a thriller that exposes government and who watches over the people and who watches over the watchers. The real world of Quentin Cooper, that there was, I called him the Marlboro Man, because I have instances where no matter what, and I always lived in secluded places, know my surroundings per se, but there was always somebody watching over me that I felt was always there, that I actually had evidence was there, but could never prove it. And this person was a person that smoked Marlboro Reds, the cigarette butts, and I would find these cigarette butts and bottles of Mountain Dew when I would be doing my yard work and stuff like that. I lived up in Minnesota. I had a house surrounded with trees, and it was a really nice, secure place. But I'd always get cautious on the fact that I'd find these cigarette butts in Mountain Dews. And this wasn't just one time, but this was many times over years that this would happen. So I knew there was always somebody watching over me. Now, who that person is, I still don't know today. But it's just kind of like when I moved down here to the southeast. I've actually found the same cigarette type butts and same Mountain Dew bottles in my yards that I've lived in. And now I've seen people stop by my house, and there's always drive-bys, there's always slow vans driving by. But we still find these things today that happen, that same Marlboro Red cigarette butt and Mountain Dew bottles. They're always the same. There's always been somebody watching over me, which led me to believe in this series that, I could get away with all these things, but especially with my past experiences of the military, of the things I've done and the things I've seen. Could I get away with these things in life? Could I get away with, breaking into people's houses? Could I get away with a murder? Could I get away with different things like that? Darn right, I probably could, because nobody ever really knew who I was. But in the end, was there really somebody still watching over me? And that was really more of the inspiration of writing these things in the beginning, because I feel there really is somebody always watching over me. And I've tried to escape that for all these years. We could actually go back into the times when I was going to the University of Wyoming. And the people that would come, that I'd find in my yard again, where it all really started. And then when the black cars showed up, and the times when I was working as a car salesman, and these two figures walked in and said, "Look it, you must come with us for a couple hours." And that was the time I got sent to Bosnia. Because why? They wanted to talk to me. They said, "No, you still belong to us." And that's when I learned there's people still watching me all the time, and it's never going to leave. Now my life is a little different, and hopefully have I gotten away from that? I sure hope so, but. Person that grew up in rural Minnesota, on a farm, on a horse farm in Minnesota, matter of fact, raised by women most of my life. My grandfather had committed suicide at a young age. My father was never around. You could say I was a bastard child in a lot of sense, for the fact that my father left before I was even born. So raised by women most of my life at a young age, and then having a grandfather commit suicide left me with not trusting a lot of men. So going through high school and trying to transition between a world of country life and then going to a big city school was tough. People didn't know who you were, so at a young age I thought, well, the best thing for me to do was to escape what I thought was problems and join the military. Joining the military gave me a lot of opportunity to see the world. Going into the United States Army and going into the military intelligence field as a surveillance specialist myself was fantastic in a lot of sense, because it gave me the opportunity to travel the world, see different places and different people, but it also gave me the chance to really see things that a lot of people probably shouldn't see, a lot of things that people don't want to see or shouldn't be exposed to. Everything from escape and evasion training, interrogation training, things I've been waterboarded, the things I've been tortured. I've seen people get tortured. I've been part of torture. I've been part of interrogations. It's eclectic in a lot of sense, but Ted is a person that is an outgoing, loving person that just wants to help people out. With the drones and people watching, with all these different agencies throughout our own government of watching people, he really does expose that there's people out there right now watching people for no other reason than just to watch people to gather information. And I think what Ted does expose is that. And in the future, Ted will expose more and more about about the government's, the way the government works and the way our government and other governments of the world treat their people and are really harming their people. Well, I think Ted it probably is an alter ego in a lot of sense, but Ted gets away with things that you and I can't get away with, and not the normal people in the world can get away with. You know, when Ted's on the road and by himself, he can conjure up a lot of things and do a lot of things that normal people can't, and so he doesn't know who to report to, or he reports once a week to people, and he's just out there alone. So yeah, I think Ted is more a person that thinks he can get away with anything he wants to without being caught, but there is always somebody watching over him too, but he doesn't think there is somebody. That might be really true, that there is a lot of similarities between Ted and I. But I think any good writer will actually tell you more and more that they live off their experiences. And those will correlate into a great book, and you live off your true feelings and exposing those. But with the difference between Ted and I is that Ted gets away with what he wants to do.